how should one trade, invest, or identify good stocks in this kind of an environment? Let's discuss all that and much more with Prakash Diwan, Director with Altamount Capital Management, who joins us live from New Delhi. Prakash, good morning and thank you for joining us. How do you propose one should trade or invest in this kind of an environment? Because everyone is waiting for the election outcome. I mean, are traders and investors better off, pulling out a bit, and should they wait for the election verdict before they participate?
Because this time around, unlike 2009, 18th May, which was the turning point, the anticipation has been kind of factored in already into our markets since a long time. I mean, since the week or so, we've seen long positions have been pruned. Traders have decided to be on the fringes. And that precisely has taken the juice out of the market. I don't think 13th or 16th possibly is going to be a very majorly eventful kind of a turning point of sorts. But what could happen once the exit polls come through, Nikunj, is that you could probably start seeing some sort of a direction that people would want to take, upward or downwards. And depending on that, I think there could be some opportunities for the traders. What we're looking at is possibly writing some calls if we believe that the exit polls don't indicate a very strong, robust outcome on 16th. And if the exuberance continues along with the exit poll outcome, then possibly you could start writing some puts, because that's the only way to make money if you have especially cash positions, long positions in some of the good blue chip stocks. Write some options either direction and then make money. That seems like probably one of the simplest ways to do it. I know I made it look very simple, but for the risk takers, it could probably involve a lot of other calculations. But you got to select some stocks which go along with this direction and make sure that you don't get disappointed, even if there's not too much of a volatile movement on 16th once the numbers out.
Prakash, what we've seen along with last two election outcome is that markets have given a binary verdict. Along with 2004 election verdict, markets came crashing down. Along with the 2009 election verdict, markets went up by 10%. Do you think this time around markets are prepared and markets are prepared to handle that election volatility, and on the election day we may not see a binary swing?
Absolutely, that's exactly what I was also driving the point at, that we may not see too much of a swing either ways, and the market might take more time to digest the outcome, and then possibly, the positions could start coming in. There's a lot of money that's on the fringes and that's willing to kind of come in. And my sense is it may not happen immediately on 16th or even for that next week for some time, because today everybody is expecting volatility, and that's precisely why you won't have volatility. Volatility comes when unexpected events happen, and I don't think there's any unexpectation of sorts that's built into the market right now. So as I said, you could only look at taking away some premium from selling out calls or options, depending on what direction you expect 16 to kind of indicate, and beyond 16, of course, more importantly, because you still have about 10 days for the series, 12 days for the series to go. So that's exactly what you could probably leverage on. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to be a binary event, unlike the last two occasions.
So what's the broad range, Prakash, you think the Nifty is going to circle in? Because for the last 1 week, we've just dragged our feet around 6,700, 6,650.
Yeah, and even in this last 2 weeks, Aisha, if you see, it's been profit booking in counters that have run up quite sharply, except for banking, where I continue to see a lot of positions still being built. The short covering actually has led to some long position build up also, particularly in the likes of ICICI, Axis, HDFC. But other than that, the range could probably be just about 250 points within the next couple of days of the outcome. As I said earlier, the critical part is going to be the days between 13th and 16th, and not necessarily 16th morning. So that's going to be quite interesting, because exit polls is what will probably help people muster up the courage or conviction to kind of take some directional cues. You might see some volatility in those 3 days, and the markets could probably have this 250, 300 points on the Nifty. my sense is the bias is upwards, of course, right now, and you could probably see it again going to those earlier highs of 68.50 and probably test some higher highs. But it's not a market that could probably swing in a very significant way, unlike what we thought 2 weeks back, where 10% on a day was kind of being talked about. I don't think those days are here where you would see the swing of 5 and 10% or circuit breakers being launched. So it's just going to be a muted 250-300 point range in those 3 days.
Like they always say on Wall Street, markets never reacts to the same event in a same manner. So this time around, the election reaction really could be very different. Markets are betting on a lot of volatility, but you never know what may really transpire on 16th of May. Prakash, let's move to individual stocks. And if I have to pinpoint or pick up a star from the mid-cap space, it really has to be NCC, Nagarjuna Construction Company. This week has been a challenging week for risk-on stocks, for high beta stocks, but Nagarjuna yesterday went up on strong volumes, closed at 56, up 6%. Do you track this one?
Yeah, I mean, see, if you look at, the move this stock has seen from the mid-30s to all the way to the 50-plus zone, it's been very clearly a very healthy move driven with a lot of volumes. Primarily, all of us know that the company is extremely keen in terms of looking out for some sort of deleveraging. They have very clearly targeted a debt-equity ratio to be brought down from the 3.5 kind of a zone to almost 1.7, which is remarkable for a company that's been struggling to do that. And some of their projects have started, getting that kind of interest where you could probably fetch some decent money, maybe 1,500 crores and upwards. So I think very clearly the company's done what it has talked about, unlike some of the other players where we've been hearing about a lot of deleveraging efforts, but they've not really consummated as timely as this one in this case. So I think NCC still has a long way to go. I mean, I believe it's a great stock. You could probably hold on till about 65, which could happen very soon. And then it would start getting into that fair valued zone. But till that point in time, I think it's definitely on a momentum.
Prakash, is the party over for mid-cap PSU stocks? Syndicate Bank, Union Bank, Allahabad Bank, all of them have reversed very sharply from the recent highs. Q4 numbers were not that strong. NPA concerns are still there, and the credit growth is not below but way below the industry average.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think if you would have pointed this out to people when these stocks were rallying while they were on fire, nobody would have wanted to put too much of attention to it. But you buy a stock for what it's going to perform going forward, and not necessarily for what it's done. But if you look at the kind of indication of what they need to still be doing to get out of the woods, there's still a long way. I don't think mid-sized PSU bank can kind of boast about reducing NPAs just because they have lowered credit growth. I mean, it's a very simple thing. You stop lending, and that's why you don't have new fresh NPAs while you're busy tackling the earlier backlog of NPAs. But this is something that cannot really fetch that kind of a premium to some of the banks that have rallied too far. I think except for OBC, which I still believe has done much better than all these peer group of the mid-sized PSU banks, none of the banks stand out in comparison in terms of having done something significant to attract more money. I would still go with the larger private sector banks at this point in time, particularly ICICI Bank and to some extent even HDFC. But there's really nothing to talk about in the mid-sized PSU banks. You would stay away from that. In fact, sell them out, book your profits, because come 16th you may probably see a rally which doesn't allow the banks to participate as much as we've already seen in the last week or 10 days.
Prakash, a new listing today, and after a gap of many months, it's been a long dry spell. Concept stock, got good subscription, but does the business model per se interest you?
Quite interesting. Of course, I don't know why the premium is as high as it's kind of anticipated in that 35-40 rupee zone, but maybe that's because of the scarcity of available stock, because the retail participation was quite significant, and it's only out of some 76 applicants of 100 shares that 26 have got allotted. And if you look at the business model, there would be significant time lag before the company starts throwing up cash to that an extent where they will be able to expand, because their expansion compensation plans do hinge on a lot of internal accruals going forward, and this was just supposed to be money that they need to kind of take it off in terms of the minimal scale or the tipping point as they'd indicated. But I would believe it's more fancied because there's nothing much available on the IPO market, and that scarcity premium for the next 10 days, because it's in T2T, will probably keep it afloat in terms of the news and volumes. But you need to step into it with a little bit of a caution. The stock could do well more out of technical reasons than fundamental.
Prakash, but let's look at numbers here. Assuming that they continue to grow at the current run rate, for FY15 they could easily report an EPS of about 14-15 rupees. And if the stock today, let's say, makes a debut at about 150, it is still not very expensive. You're still buying into a concept stock, a company which has a lot of real estate, a company which really will capture on the entire leisure demand at a P multiple of 12-13 times. It may be small in size, but you never know with some of these theme parks.
No, I agree. There's definitely a lot of merit in that, Nikunj. But if you were to buy, you need to buy it at current levels, at whatever it gets listed at. Maybe assuming that's probably one of the lower levels that you get into. But as it starts kind of building, the hype starts coming in, it could move to maybe let's say at 135, 150 levels, and then it starts becoming expensive. So you would need to look at getting in very early, or if you've got in the IPO, you're lucky enough. But otherwise, beyond that 135, 150 is what I meant, that it starts getting slightly expensive, because then you would have to give them time to organically grow that EPS to, a decent clip. But today, if you get it around the same price what you mentioned, I seriously would love to buy it, because that's something which a lot of people have been looking at in their portfolio as an allocation in that sector, and it kind of ends up proving to be quite defensive as well going forward.
Okay, Prakash, I'm going to shift focus and talk about IT. The consensus view on the street is that IT stocks will take a backseat. If rupee appreciates further, IT companies will report a big sequential drop in the operating profit margins and in their profits. Do you think it is time to avoid IT, or the current leg of decline is a good time to pick up bargains, because most of the IT stocks are down by about 15 to 17% from the recent highs?
I think the latter makes more sense. I'm waiting for IT companies to react downward to this entire anticipation of the rupee's firmness. The big question is, does the rupee continue its strengthening for the next 2 quarters? And my answer is probably no. It could possibly stabilize at that 58, 50, 59 for a while, and that gives ample opportunity for most IT companies to accordingly hedge themselves against any kind of adverse move. And once that's done, the next couple of quarters would start kind of actually making them report earnings which are fairly decent. So this whole downward rating that we expect, I think, is a little bit overdone. But if you look at the kind of uptick in most of the markets that some of the large IT companies are present into, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and they could continue growing. So, and especially the mid-sized IT companies are the ones, if they were available at lower levels, definitely, they're worth kind of putting your money into. But you would have to, as I said, wait for the next 2 quarters for the traction to start. So between today and the next few days, let's say the next 30, 40 days, if the dip continues in the same way, I think it's a great time to get into IT rather than ignore it or start, saying that this is probably the end of that IT run that we'd seen start off late last year.
So what would you buy within IT?
Some of the good companies that we've liked or identified, one is NIIT Tech. Very clearly, it's a company that's done well for itself on an organic operational basis. There's no additional income that kind of keeps on padding to the bottom line. The scale-up has been fairly consistent at very decent cost. Hexaware, in spite of the bad numbers, I would believe would come back. It's an aberration that we've seen because of dependence on some of the key clients, getting into a little bit of a slowdown, and that entire reworking, reconfiguration of the client mix would probably, take a quarter, but after that, it's another stock that could start clipping at a very decent, growth of at least in that 18 to 20% kind of a zone, which is much better than some of the larger companies also.
So let's extensively discuss NIT Tech. What is so special about NIT Tech? They're yet to come out with numbers, but if I look at the run rate, what they've done in last 2 or 3 quarters, not a very exciting run rate. On a small base also, the sequential growth is about 3 to 4%, which is nothing great to write home about.
No, I agree. So that's the whole idea. These are not companies that are very sporadic in terms of reporting earnings, which are extremely high. They've been doing a lot of work in terms of broad basing their services. Some of the new services that they started off middle of last year have actually started seeing a lot of, particularly on the engineering side, because it's, as a company, it never had a particular USP when you compare it with some of the other companies like Polaris or something like even Exaware, which have always had some sort of domain strength that you wanted to pay a premium for, and that's exactly why NIT Tech has never really received too much of a premium. But the low attention that NIT Tech has and Infotech Enterprise has is exactly the reason why the accumulation will be at reasonable levels, and you will probably start seeing growth probably in the next 2 quarters, which is going to be impressive because of the build-up that hasn't yet happened. So you have the good times yet to come, and NIT Tech apparently has probably been hiring at probably one of the most efficient costs in the last 2 quarters if you break down the numbers as compared to the mid-cap IT peer group, and that's going to take off. That's going to help them improve margins, if not the top line, very dramatically.
Do you think right now ICICI Bank is in a sweet spot? Not because they've come out with some gangbuster set of numbers, simply because of technical factors. For HDFC Bank, FI limit is frozen. For Axis Bank, the FI limit is almost frozen. So do you think in the light of this technical impediment, foreign investors would be forced to buy into ICICI Bank, and that is one trend which we need to focus on also?
No, absolutely. As I said, one of the comfort factors has been, as you said, the numbers haven't been dramatic, which means that you probably don't have disappointment going forward, because otherwise on a Q-on-Q basis it becomes difficult for some of these large balance sheets to manage, rewarding themselves with decent numbers. And the other thing which ICICI Banks manages, even in this tough regime, the product mix that they have focused on for a long time, it's nothing new, but the decisive corporate and retail mix that they've had has helped them grow in a very decent clip. And mind you, the CASA growth has been very consistent, a trend that we used to see in HDFC Bank's case, for a long time. So ICICI has kind of managed to, maybe replicate the same strategy, get the same kind of a sales ethos in their team. There's a lot of fee-based income that's kind of getting generated. And the best part about ICICI Bank, apart from the technical factors that you mentioned about the holding limits, is that it's still got no CDR worries that are going to be something which you don't know, a Pandora's box that yet to be opened. Axis would probably still have some of those concerns which we don't know about, but the CDR cases that ICICI has very clearly are the first ones to start getting themselves into a healthier zone if things look up when a new government happens and stability comes back. So my sense is ICICI Bank definitely is poised for a decent re-rating of sorts. And the downside is absolutely the minimal in all the top private sector banks out there. So when we are talking about mid-sized PSU banks, that's what I mentioned, that you would rather go in for an ICICI Bank which will not give you the sleeplessness that some of these mid-sized PSU banks keep on doing with their NPA disclosures. So I think definitely ICICI Bank is a stock to watch. And if you want to play the banking sector going forward, I think it's one of the best proxies right now.
Homework on it. Looks like you own a lot of ICICI Bank.
I wish so.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. Is that a yes or a no?
I said I wish I did. I wish I'd owned a lot, as you mentioned. I do own a little bit of it, but not lots.
Okay, Prakash, we're going to let you go before Nikunj starts quizzing you on all other names in your portfolio.